If you're over 30, strong, consistent, and disciplined, but your body isn't letting you push the way it used to, our channel is for you. An elite sports surgeon once told me that for high performers, injuries are like wrinkles on the face. It's not failure, it's evidence of a life trained hard. After coaching over 100,000 people globally, we've seen that pain-free training comes down to 3 non-negotiables. Starting with structural balance, I'll break down all 3 so you know how to keep performance climbing without surgery or setbacks. The real problem with most training programs is not effort, it's structure. They build muscle, they build strength, but they don't balance the body. Most people train body parts, so chest day, back day, leg day. That approach ignores how the body actually works. The body does not move muscle by muscle. It moves joint by joint under opposing forces. Structural balance is simply the balance between those forces. Push muscles balance with pull muscles, upper body balance with lower body, stabilizers balance with prime movers, left side balance with right side, strength balance with flexibility. When that balance is missing, the body still adapts, it just adapts poorly. And at first it's subtle, a little stiffness, a small ache, a plateau that doesn't make sense. As you get older, those imbalances don't disappear, they compound. Then one day, the body is asked to produce real output, a hard sprint, a heavy lift, a jump, a throw, even lifting your kid. That's when things fail. Not because you trained too hard, but because one side of a joint was pulling harder than the other, or one system was doing the work another system couldn't support. That's when acute injuries happen. Slap tears, meniscus tears, ACL ruptures, disc herniations. It's not from one bad rep, from years of imbalance finally being exposed. That is the cost of training without structural balance. Think about the mast on a sailing ship. It's tall, it's under constant tension. It only stays upright because it's supported evenly by rigging on all sides. Now imagine that mast with more rigging on one side than the other. On a calm day, nothing looks wrong. The ship still sails, the mast still stands. But then a strong wind hits. The side with more rigging pulls harder, the unsupported side can't counter the force, and the mast bends. And it doesn't bend slowly, it snaps. Not because the wind was unusual, because the forces weren't balanced. That's exactly how joints behave. As long as demands are low, imbalance hides. But when force spikes, imbalance is exposed, and that's when things break. Structural balance is simply developing the body as a system, not a collection of parts. And that system has 5 non-negotiable requirements. First is left to right symmetry. If one side consistently does more work than the other, the body compensates. And those compensations feel invisible at first, but they always surface later as pain, overuse, or breakdown. Second is balance between opposing muscle groups. Joints don't move in one direction, they are controlled by opposing forces. When pushing muscles outpace pulling muscles, or quads outpace hamstrings, joint stress rises fast. Strength without opposition isn't strength, it's instability with numbers. Third is balance between stabilizers and prime movers. Big muscles create force, small muscles control it. So if we use the shoulder as an example, the pecs, deltoids, and lats, they're the big prime movers that create movement, and the rotator cuff, deep on the inside, they're the small muscles that hold it in place. And when the rotator cuff is outpaced by the prime movers, instead of the joint moving nicely like this, you start getting joint glide, and that is pain. Fourth is balance between upper and lower body. Overdevelop one half of the body and neglect the other, and force transfer breaks down. A resilient body is a unit. You can see this in marathon runners. They've got highly developed legs, but a very underdeveloped upper body. Now let me show you how this looks inside a real workout. Let's say it's an upper body day built around pressing. So your first movement is a barbell bench press, and your second movement is a barbell bent over row. Every set of pressing is immediately matched with a set of rowing. Same reps, same intent. That's opposing muscle balance handled rep for rep. Once those main sets are done, you move to the supplementary workout where you use dumbbells. So a 30-degree incline dumbbell chest press matched with a 30-degree incline prone dumbbell row. This is where left to right symmetry is exposed and corrected, because barbells let imbalances hide and even make them worse, whereas dumbbells force honesty. And then you add a seated dumbbell external rotation. So this targets the external rotators of the rotator cuff, the inner stabilizing unit. Pressing heavy actually trains internal rotators, but rowing does not train the external rotators. So if pressing strength keeps climbing while external rotator strength lags, then the shoulder becomes vulnerable, and that's how slap tears happen. Inside one session, you've already addressed 3 pillars: opposing muscle systems, left to right symmetry, and stabilizers versus prime movers. Upper and lower body balance is handled across the week through the program split with squat and deadlift sessions. And then there's the final pillar, the fifth element. The one most people ignore completely or chase in a way that undermines everything else, the balance between strength and flexibility. That's where most workouts truly break down. The problem with most training systems is that they force you to choose strength or flexibility. You see it everywhere. Walk into a gym and you'll see strong people, but almost nobody who moves well. So much so that when someone actually stretches with real range in the gym, they stand out instantly. They look different, they move differently. They're an outlier. Now, walk into a yoga studio. You'll see flexible people everywhere, but very few who are meaningfully strong. Bring many of them into a gym and they can't squat half their body weight or do a strict pull-up. They have range, but no force. The fitness industry split these qualities apart. Strength lives in one world and flexibility lives in another. And people are taught, either directly or indirectly, that they have to pick a side. We lived this split ourselves. For more than a decade, my brother Yanni and I didn't train together. He went all in on strength training and hypertrophy, and he got very big, very strong, and very stiff. I went the other way. I went in on martial arts and flexibility work. On the surface, I moved well, but I was weak. When I was an infantry soldier in the army, one of my goals was to master strict muscle-ups, and I worked on them for a full year. Yeah, I know what you're thinking, a year to do muscle-ups, but I was piss weak. And after a year, I could do one clean rep. Now, he had never done muscle-ups in his life. And the first time we trained together, I showed him the technique, and in that same session, he was doing sets of 5. Bastard. Not because he was better at muscle-ups, but because his raw strength completely dwarfed mine. But then the roles reversed. One of his long-term goals was a heavy barbell back squat, double body weight. And when I started training properly with him, within a month, I was squatting more than he was, and doing it with less effort. Not because I was the better lifter, because years of flexibility gave me a massive advantage once strength was added. It hit both of our egos hard, and it exposed something impossible to ignore. Strength without flexibility is limited. Flexibility without strength is fragile. As long as those qualities are trained separately, you never become a complete athlete. And that's the problem. Think about an arrow and a bow. An arrow can only be launched when two things exist together. So strength in the limbs of the bow and flexibility in the bend. Too stiff and it won't draw back, too soft and it won't launch the arrow. Real power comes from stored elastic energy. Strength gives you force, flexibility gives you range. Together they create speed, precision, and repeatable output. Separate them and performance collapses. The solution is to stop treating strength and flexibility as separate goals. The moment you separate them, you create a real time problem. So if you already train 4 or 5 days a week and you decide you want more flexibility, you might tell yourself, I'll add 30 minutes at the end of my workout. But you're already tired. You've already done the hard work, so that block gets skipped. Or you tell yourself, I'll do some flexibility on my off days. But that's your recovery time, and eventually that gets skipped too. And the same thing happens in reverse. If you're doing yoga 4 or 5 days a week and decide you want to get strong, you're not replacing anything, you're adding more sessions, more fatigue, more time you don't actually have. In the real world, most people don't need more discipline, they need better structure. And that's why inside the Unified Movement System, aka UMS, strength and flexibility live in the same workout. Not as separate sessions, not as an afterthought, they're integrated. So let's go back to the upper body workout and I'll show you how flexibility fits in. Instead of doing your set of bench press, rest, a set of row, rest and repeat, we change how rest works. You do your set of bench press, but instead of standing around, you perform a lower body flexibility drill, for example, hamstrings. Then you do your set of bent over rows and then a hip flexor flexibility drill. Your upper body is fully resting while flexibility is trained elsewhere. That's active recovery. You're not interfering with strength, you're using the time that would have been idle. So by the time you return to your bench press, 4 or 5 minutes have passed, and that's plenty of rest to produce maximal force. So in the same 5-minute block, you've trained pressing strength, pulling strength, and flexibility without extending the session. Same work length, same intensity, but way more output. That's how strength and flexibility stop competing. They support each other. And that's why this 5th pillar matters so much. It's the difference between knowing flexibility is important and actually training it consistently. Now, if you're listening to this and you're healthy and pain-free, this should make complete sense. That's exactly how this system is meant to work. You don't wait until something breaks to train intelligently. You use structure now so you don't pay later. But there's another group watching. People thinking, well, this sounds great, but I can't train like that right now because I've got a shoulder injury or a knee injury or I've blown my back out. And you're wondering if this only works when you're already healthy. And that question matters. Because if training only worked when you're pain-free, it fails the people who need it most. So the thing we need to talk about is this. How do you keep training intelligently, safely, and productively when injury is already a part of the picture? And that's what we're breaking down next. The problem with how injuries are handled is that the system treats injury like a stop sign. Once you're injured, you're told to stop training, rest until the pain goes away, avoid the gym, or go straight to surgery. Now that approach is built for the average person, not someone who's trained for years and wants to keep performing. Most rehab models focus on getting people out of pain, not back to real training. So pain settles and people are cleared and they return to the only intensity they know, hard. They exceed tissue capacity again, the injury flares up, and they get stuck in a loop of rest, rehab, and re-injury. At its core, the system makes one critical mistake. It treats training intensity like an on-off switch. You're either not training at all, or you're cleared to train normally again. But the body doesn't work like a switch, it works like a dial. It's like walking into a bathroom in the middle of the night. If you flick the light on at full power, it's blinding and your eyes can't process it. Everything feels worse before it feels better. Now imagine that same room with a dimmer. You turn the light on very low, your eyes adjust, then you slowly turn it up. No shock, no stress, no overload. That's how the body responds to training after injury. When rehab gets you out of pain, that's not the green light to go full intensity. That's the moment the dimmer needs to start turning up. And when people jump straight from rehab back to full training, it's like flipping the light on at full blast. The injury doesn't come back because rehab failed. It comes back because intensity wasn't reintroduced gradually. That's the real problem. And the solution starts with understanding the issue intensity continuum. This was taught to us by a world-class sports physiotherapist who is the head physio of an elite football club in Australia, the GWS Giants, and has worked with Yanni and I for close to 20 years. There's an inverse relationship between how severe an issue is and how hard you can train. So when an injury is severe, training intensity must be low, but never zero. It means controlled, it means specific, and it means appropriate. As the issue improves, the training intensity can rise, but it has to increase gradually. Now, physiotherapy is often very good at the first part of this equation, getting you from a 10 or a 9 out of 10 issue down to an 8 or a 7. Which means that you could train at an intensity of 3. So movement improves, daily life improves, and then people are released. Here's where things break down. The only way most serious lifters know how to train is hard. So they walk back into a gym and train at an 8, 9, or 10 out of 10 intensity. And even if the weight is lighter, the intensity is still too high for the tissue's current capacity. So they exceed tolerance, pain flares up, back to rest, back to rehab, back into the loop. That's not reckless. It's missing the bridge. The issue intensity continuum is that bridge. So as the issue comes down, the intensity has to rise gradually. You can't ever go from low intensity straight back to high intensity in one jump. The idea is simple, but most systems never explain it. Capacity has to be rebuilt. Load tolerance has to be earned. Control has to come before output. When that relationship is respected, injuries resolve. When it's ignored, they repeat. And that principle underpins everything inside the UMS. This is where the solution becomes clear. If you train seriously, standard advice doesn't work for you. Rest until the pain goes away, do some rehab, then go back to normal life. That approach is built for people who just want to function day to day, not for people who want to lift, run, compete, or perform. If you've trained for years, your problem isn't motivation, and it isn't recklessness. Your problem is that the system was never designed to take you back to real training. That's why the issue intensity continuum matters so much. It explains what most rehab leaves out. As an injury settles, intensity must increase gradually and with intent. That middle ground is where most people get lost. They're taken out of pain, then sent back to training with no bridge. So they jump straight back to the only intensity they know, and the injury repeats. Now the solution isn't stopping. It's learning how to train in the presence of injury. That means staying active while respecting load capacity. So you adjust range, tempo, and volume, and then progress step by step instead of flipping a switch. This approach isn't for everyone, but it's exactly what people like you need. People who don't want to cope. People who don't want to give up the body they've built. People who want to keep pushing as they get older. And that's why this works. We get asked this all the time by our UMS tribe. Why does this work so well when I've spent years with doctors, physios, and even surgeons and still couldn't train the way I wanted? And then within months inside the UMS, I'm pain-free and able to push again. This is why. Structural balance so the body supports high output, strength and flexibility trained together so time is no longer the constraint and you build a functional physique, and training in the presence of injury instead of being sidelined. Most systems do one, we do all three. And that's what this channel is about. If you've trained for years, you're disciplined, and you refuse to accept pain and decline as just getting older, this is where you'll feel at home. Here we break down how to build a body that's strong, mobile, resilient, and capable of training hard for decades. No fluff, no generic advice, just systems that work at a high level. And if you want to see what it actually looks like to work with this inside the UMS, watch that next video there. And I'll see you in that video.